Hey folks, totally not named Dan here, but before we get into today's rules update, I do have another slight news update for you, because I just got my order in from JP, who's back. And JP, if you don't know, formerly the Bearded Card Trader, now runs UA Rejects, and is the only place I've seen these Class Reunion Pack promos available as anything other than a really overpriced booster box. So the fact that I can buy them individually now is super cool, and if it's anything like JP's previous site, it will quickly become the go-to for singles in UniVersus and My Hero Academia. So I am very excited to be able to get hold of cards properly again. And here's everything I got in my first order. As you can see, all beautiful, and just, yeah, really happy with it. But that's all on that for now. Let's get on over to the rules vid. Alrighty, so now that I'm in 3D with my buddy Cutest here, let's take a look at the rules updates. And we're going to start with card legality because, well, we don't have any more bans, but we do have some errata. Because while it's outside of the newly scheduled ban and errata updates, some of the cards for set 5 have been a little weirdly worded.
Right.
Chronostasis, we've got here the character's form has changed to form once per turn, lose 2 health, which it was before. If your rival has at least one card in their card pool, choose one break or attack card in your card pool and play it, as before, as your next form. So the important thing here is that it tells you your next form must be that card, but it doesn't tell you that this effect causes you to play the card as part of the effect. Because if it was part of the effect, you'd be able to fail that and not end your turn.
Oh, right, yeah.
Actually, no, because this effect is a form. Technically, you'd be playing the card as a form, right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's still a form.
It's unclear what the exact issue is there, but I do feel like that probably needed to happen.
Yeah, it feels like it makes sense.
Then we have Fatcom said he could not be your starting character on the card, then specifically said when you build this card, it becomes your starting character.
Oh, I see.
They've now changed it to you cannot begin the game with it as your starting character. This character cannot begin the game as your starting character.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And then Eri said, at the start of your end phase, ready one non-unique asset or foundation that was not ready during this turn's combat phase as static text on her card. Static text functions in all face-up, visible to both players' zones.
Even discard pile?
Yes, previously if you checked Eri, then when you ended the turn, you could ready a thing for free.
Doesn't that break other stuff?
For every copy of Eri. There are very few things where static text would do something in the discard pile, and usually it's stuff like when this would go to your momentum, it goes face up.
Right, yeah.
Which
so usually specifies
is actually meant to be. Well, yeah, this has changed to say while this card is in your stage, which everyone knew it had to do, apart from apparently the people who playtested it.
Yeah.
Which says something about the playtesting, but hey.
True.
And finally, we have Phantom Threat. Phantom Threat was response after this attack receives a damage bonus, it gets +1 speed. If this is the 5th time you've played this ability, draw 1 card and this attack gains flash. I believe it was if you've played this ability for the 5th time or something before. It's a very slight grammar change. I don't think it's a huge issue, and under the previous rules, this card still doesn't work because gaining flash during the enhanced step didn't do anything. That has changed, however.
Oh.
We have a whole bunch of rules updates.
But it doesn't have a mechanical difference, does it, with the wording?
As far as I can tell, no, but it probably does, and I'm probably just missing something.
Fair.
So we have a bunch of updates here. I'm not seeing one for Flash, but I know there is one. So I'm going to click on Flash, even though it's not highlighted in red. Yeah, here we go. They've just failed to highlight it.
All right.
Flash is a keyword ability. Flash grants skip this attack's enhanced step. If an attack gains Flash during its enhanced step, the enhanced step ends, move to the block step. Note, that is a separate rule. That is not part of the wording of Flash. The wording of Flash still just says skip this attack's enhanced step.
That's clunky. Well, why didn't they just say end the enhanced step instead of this attack gains Flash?
It probably matters for some other effects, but also just it sounds cooler.
I guess it matters for gaining keyword stuff, but then you can't do much with it if the enhanced step ends. Oh well.
I mean, you still got responses, so who knows. But yeah, that's Flash's change. What else we got? So also highlighted in red, we have copying another card. Oh, that's interesting. Some effects turn a card into a copy of another card, or allow you to play a card as a copy of another card. These effects are a special type of modifier effect which are applied before any other modifier effects. Copying a card copies every property of the card, its name, its card type, block modifier, keywords, abilities, etc. So if you play a card as a copy of a card, yeah, everything's copied about it.
Alright, so it's still treated as a modifier, not as printed.
Yeah, they're not printed values, but it is a copy of the card still.
Alright, yeah.
The fact they're not printable matter for combos and stuff. But
So how is this different?
I don't believe we had any rules on copying another card in My Hero before.
Oh, right. So you just took it over from UniVersus stuff.
But then in UniVersus, they have rules specifically saying you can't copy a multiple, which doesn't apply here because the multiple keyword doesn't exist in MHA.
Yeah,
Another thing
adapted it.
that is new to MHA is progressive difficulty.
Wait, what?
Progressive difficulty was never defined in the rules of MHA.
Oh, right. So they just actually properly completed the rules.
Yeah. So here, there, and everywhere, there were references to progressive difficulty, and between the bunch of them, you could piece together what progressive difficulty was, but there was no segment of the rules that said progressive difficulty, and they all referenced back to that segment.
Yeah, I did find the previous rules lacking when I had looked at them, to be honest.
Yeah. There was somebody who just complained to them constantly, and they said, no, it's obvious what it is. They've now fixed it.
I mean, the rules book should define everything.
Yeah, it really should. When playing a card, progressive difficulty is a value equal to the number of other cards in your card pool. The card you are playing does not enter the card pool until you have finished playing it, but we refer to other cards in your card pool for clarity reasons. I like that they clarify that there. That is important.
Yes, yeah,
it's also worth noting that because of the echo effect and a bunch of other effects, you can play cards from your card pool. At that point, the card you're playing from your card pool is still in your card pool. It doesn't leave your card pool, but it still doesn't count towards progressive difficulty. So the fact that it says other cards is important for that as well.
So they're not quite complete when they say for clarity reasons.
Well, it's for clarity reasons in how effects like echo work. Right, scroll back up. What else we got? That's weird. They say copying another card is the first thing that's changed, and yet I'm seeing random red bits here.
I think it's better if we just scroll through it.
Yeah. Action. Actions are one of the 5 card types. Playing and passing an action card is an added cost to playing one of its abilities from your hand. You can't play the card otherwise, save for blocking with it. You play an action card's abilities from your hand, you can't normally play them from anywhere else. If an effect allows you to play cards from another specific zone, you may play an ability on an action card in that zone, provided it follows all other rules on playing an action. For instance, you cannot play a form during the enhance step or an enhance during a response window. Yeah, there we go. The important thing here is there is a character this set who specifically tells you can play actions from your discard pile, and the rules as previously written did not allow that to happen.
Right, yeah.
Again, that's not a problem with the rules. That's just abilities came along that did something outside the previous scope of them, and the rules have been updated to account for it, which is good rules management.
Yeah.
Additional asset even. If a card counts or refers to your assets, it means assets in your stage. Interesting that we've got or refers to added there. I'm not sure what that specifically refers to as a rule, but
maybe it's just stuff like if you have an asset or something.
Yeah, but that's not your assets. That's just an asset. But even so, yeah. Okay, assigned effect. Assigned effect is long.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just going to skip ahead to the relevant bit. Abilities that respond to the attack being played, which trigger before the attack sequence starts, will be usable. Anything that triggers on the attack resolving will also be usable. This attack on a non-attack card or an enhance ability means the attack currently in progress in its attack sequence being played was just played or just resolved. This is important because
resolved.
this... Yeah, so if this attack dealt damage, for example, or...
right, yeah.
Or after this attack resolves, we'll still refer to this attack, the attack that's just resolved. But also, the important thing here is being played. Like, Mimic responds to you committing an asset and allows you to commit an asset to pass his checks. If you commit an asset to pass the check of playing an attack, he can respond to committing the asset and still see the current attack being played as this attack and give it the damage bonus. Yeah. In a continuous or response ability on an attack, this attack only refers to the attack the ability is on. Yeah. If an ability is written on an attack, it generally refers to that. If it's a card pool ability, however, it refers to the current attack still. Your attack or your rival's attack in any scenario refer to the attack in progress, provided it's either yours or your rival's respectively. Yeah, your attack or your rival's attack, or even this rival attack, I guess, all refer to this attack with the added stipulation of which player it has to belong to work.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't account for those card pool responses you mentioned.
Yeah, they don't actively state that, but it's also, this is a continuous responsibility on the attack, not a card pool one. They're not actually looking at card pool ones, so...
Oh, an attack.
Maybe they could account for that. Maybe that would be better if they got that there, but they're not saying anything wrong, they're just not saying the full scope of everything, right?
Yeah. I prefer consistency to completeness.
Then we also have, note, MHA CCG does not have targeting. That's not entirely true. There are some very specific abilities that target, but the vast majority do not, and the game does not by default. This means you're free to play your attack abilities during your rival's attack, even if the effect would fail to do anything. Yes. Yeah, as long as you can pay the cost. If the cost refers to your attack somehow, and it's not your attack, you can't do it.
All right, they mean that specific aspect of targeting in other card games, I guess. Because even with the gigantic explosion, you could just not pick foundations.
Yeah, there are a few instances. I don't know about specifically in MHA, but in UniVersus as a whole, there are definitely a few instances of abilities that require you to choose a target as part of the cost.
Yeah.
They are very specific. They are very rare. It is only when the ability actively requires them to function, or requires them to not allow you to pay 19 life for no reason, for example.
Oh, yeah. I really like this this freedom in card design. You can really choose what is necessary and what isn't.
Yeah. So there are exceptions to these rules, but generally speaking, yeah, as long as you can pay the cost, you can do the effect, and if the rest fails, well, maybe there was some benefit to the cost for you.
Oh yeah, sometimes you do it just for the cost.
Absolutely. Note that any fired effects or responses to play an attack happen before the attack sequence begins. Okay. Yep. Right, so let's move on. Oh, we have blocking here.
Oh, a block status. Oh.
Okay. An attack is not blocked, completely blocked, or partially blocked is a block status, I guess. And then, yeah, you can only have one such block status. If an attack's block status changes after being initially determined, triggers to blocking do not happen again.
So you can't respond to blocking again, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess let's say I use 2 instances of In the Typhoon. When we get to the block step, it becomes completely blocked, and then it becomes completely blocked again.
Yeah.
It's not been blocked twice, it just has had its block status renewed, I guess. Not even changed, because that's the same status. I don't know how you would change block status, but it's interesting. I don't know what card required this rule, but it's a very interesting rule.
I know you said there's some cards that do like leaf shield shenanigans, like it's partially blocked, it's fully blocked, or something like that. But that's not a new thing, so I don't know.
So no, those cards change the amount of damage that's dealt when it's partially blocked. They don't change it to completely blocked, generally.
Really?
Yeah, they don't change the block status, they just change the damage dealt.
Fair enough, yeah.
You just referred to it as completely blocked because it blocked all the damage.
Huh, I was so sure of that.
We looked at copying. Here we go, Deadlock. Oh. Deadlock is a play restriction. See play restrictions. Deadlock abilities are only playable if your rival has more than 10, as in 11 or more. Yeah, so I don't know why they say more than 10 when they could say 11 or more and be clear. Foundations in their stage. This only counts foundations, not characters or assets. They're extra clear on that now, because Mimic exists, and Mimic uses assets as foundations, but they aren't foundations. Right. So Mimic will almost certainly never go into Deadlock. If an effect checks to see if a player is at Deadlock or in Deadlock, it is checking to see if they have more than 10 foundations.
Why is this necessary?
I believe it's specifically the first form of Fat Gum. Fat Gum 1 says you can find his second if you are at or in Deadlock.
Oh, right, yeah. So it's like an additional part of an ability that only triggers on Deadlock. This is,
right. Previously, Deadlock was just a play restriction. Now it's saying if this play restriction is met, abilities can look for that, even though they're not restricted by that the same way.
Makes sense, yeah.
So that's what that's about. Interesting still that it only refers to it as a play restriction for abilities, when technically you could have a Deadlock card. A card that's only playable when your opponent's in Deadlock. It would be a bad idea, It would be terrible design because you can't control whether or not you can ever play that card.
Yeah.
But it could theoretically exist. And there's no reason not to allow that design space other than it's crap. Then we have deals damage. An attack must deal 1 or more damage to count as dealing damage. If an attack would deal 0 or negative damage, it does not deal damage. I don't know why that is only added to the rules now, because that is a standard UniVersus rule.
Yeah. I think that's just them missing something again.
But a lot of players have asked about this, so it's nice that we've got that there. It's just why the hell was not there sooner?
Absolutely.
Damage can be negative. Yep. Every number can be negative except for X. Why X can't be negative, I'm not fully sure. But X can't be negative and everything else can.
Oh, because then you could turn a bonus into a penalty and the other way around. You probably don't want it to do that.
But the thing with that is attacks cannot deal negative damage. If it would deal negative damage, it just doesn't deal damage. So while the damage value of the attack can be negative, the damage dealt cannot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was an existing rule too.
Yeah. Now, this goes a bit further. As we found when we were playing around with the staff cards, it is possible to change the damage at the point it is being dealt and make it go from +1 to -1 there with some very specific cards that may or may not be tournament legal.
Right.
In that instance, even if the damage is negative as it's being dealt, the damage just doesn't go through. It is not possible to deal negative damage in any way.
Yeah.
Right, what else we got? Oh, Echo. Here we go. An Echo ability on a face-down card cannot be played. I don't know why they needed to say... Oh, wait, no, I do know why they needed to say that.
Because they changed the copying, right?
That is huge, actually. Yeah, now that they've introduced card copying, that was a thing that I was concerned about. Because, as originally worded, if the face-down card was a copy, it would be impossible to flip it, so the flip would just fail, right? Which would mean it would stay a face-down copy, which would mean you could play the Echo ability until you ran out of momentum.
Oh, yes.
That's why they needed to state this, so that Echo couldn't go infinite with momentum-generating effects.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because a face-down Echo card was otherwise insanely powerful.
But not literally.
I mean, it could be. You don't know what card this is. I'm pretty sure there's a card with both Echo and powerful.
Yeah, but if it's like powerful too, I wouldn't call it insanely powerful.
True. You need All Might for that. Right, what else is new?
Oh, let's see. Oh.
Face-down attacks, they're explaining in general. Some effects may allow you to have a face-down attack. Generally, this will be because a face-down card has an effect on it copying another card, or it was given some preset values. Yeah, that second one is important for some really old cards, like, say, You Are Not My Father.
Oh.
I kind of wonder if I should run a Dabby deck with that just for funsies, but there's no way anyone would allow that card nowadays. That's a legacy card.
Right.
And honestly, it's kind of busted because it lets you play attacks without having attacks in your deck.
Well, that's dumb, yeah.
Even if they're not good attacks.
But your checks will be insane.
But it's interesting that this specifically accounts for that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've seen a card that lets you play another card as an attack with set values outside of Legacy.
Ooh, could this be some spoilers?
Maybe. A face-down attack that deals damage can still go to momentum during the end phase. What?
Oh, interesting.
What?
That's a change.
I don't think face-downs went to momentum under former UniVersus rules. I know for a fact that face-down multiple copies did not, but multiple copies were a special exception in many places.
I just read the next point and I think we might be wrong.
Okay, what bit are you looking at?
Yeah, that part. Face-down attack is copied to card type attack, so it counts as an attack in your card pool for effects and so on.
Yeah.
The Echo still goes to momentum.
No, the Echo doesn't, because that goes from being a face-up attack to a face-down. The face-down attack is an attack that dealt damage, even though it's not a printed attack, and so can go to your momentum for that reason.
Then why is a resolved second Echo not an attack?
Because it was an attack, and it is flipped face-down. It's not a face-down attack now, it's just a face-down card. There is no copying going on there.
But doesn't Echo copy the original card?
No, Echo just lets you play the card again.
Oh yeah, that explains it then.
The face-down attack has 0 printed speed, 0 printed damage, and its printed zone is mid. Well, kind of. It doesn't have any printed value for speed, or any printed value for damage, or any printed zone, but if a card looks for them, those are the values it will see because those are the values it defaults to. When a card is played face down as a copy of an attack, its initial current state has all of the copied values. It does not start at zeros/nulls and get a modification. As in, you can't respond to this printed 0 thing becoming, say, a 3/5. That doesn't count as a damage bonus that Tiger can respond to. It doesn't count as a speed bonus that Ida can respond to.
Yeah,
It's
but here they
just the
make a
starting
distinction
values.
between zeros and nulls. So I don't think face downs count as null anymore, the stats. I think they actually are zeros now.
Well, in every other portion of the rules, they've counted that way, so that's weird if that's the case. But, I mean, maybe. And the fact they're saying zeros/nulls kind of implies that they're the same thing to them.
No,
That doesn't
we
sound
can't
like
do
a
that.
distinction,
Face down.
but it's also not correct if that's the case. We talked about the change to Flash.
Let's skip it.
Yep. Skip the Flash step. Foundation. Foundations are one of the 5 card types. Yep. If a card counts or refers to your foundations, it means foundations in your stage. Okay, they just really want to clarify the counts or refers to thing. They did that for assets. They're doing that for foundations as well. Fair enough.
Sense, yeah.
Oh, here we go. Unlike hand size, health is a maximum. If an effect would gain health beyond the maximum, it gains up to the maximum instead. If an effect would gain health, but you were already at your maximum, it fails to gain health at all. You can never have health above your maximum. If your maximum health is reduced below your current health, which is possible either through Fat Gum or Nejire, your current health is also reduced to the new maximum. And the important part of here
Oh, right, yeah.
that I've seen a lot of people question is, yes, that does count as losing health because your current health has gone down. If an effect reduces your maximum health without reducing your current health, and then your maximum health causes your current health to be reduced, that is not the effect reducing your current health. You cannot respond to that with things like Shigaraki's kit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have still lost health. It will trigger things like, say, bench press.
Yeah, makes sense. Very subtle, though.
Yeah. It's a subtle difference. In its name, if a card checks for a word in another card's name, it is checking for exactly that word. If the letters of that word are contained in another word, it doesn't count. For example, Red Riot's the coolest, cannot apply the bonus from its deadlock enhance to measured violence. What's it looking
because
for?
it contains the word red. Measure red.
It contains the word red, yes. And likewise,
Okay.
Catastrophe doesn't count as containing the word cat for Fantastic Feast. Fancy
I
Feast,
wish
whatever it's called.
I feel like it would be more fun if it did, but oh well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's
also
a very
didn't-
unfun rule, but it's fair enough.
Yeah, but they're not talking about capitalization.
Capitalization doesn't count. Capitalization is just whatever. Smash with no capitals is exactly the same as smash with all capitals.
Yeah, but they should specify that in the rules, I think.
I don't know if they have to, because they just say if the letters of that word.
Yeah,
Actually,
but
no, that's only an exclusion. They
right.
never state the letters of the word in the inclusion. So yeah, maybe since it says exactly that word, it should clarify that. That's actually a good point, huh?
But then again, if it's a word, the capitalization is always consistent in the titles.
No, there are cards where smash is spelled with all caps and ones where it's spelled with one cap.
Oh yeah, true.
So it is actually relevant whether or not capitals count.
Oh, keyword ratings.
Yep, some keywords have a colon and a number after it. That's their keyword rating. Keyword abilities that have ratings will reference them in their text. If an effect modifies a card's keyword rating, it only modifies one instance of the rating. If a card has more than one instance of the keyword rating, choose one rating to modify.
That's very helpful.
So
I think I've been there before.
this is a clarification of card wording. This is not a ruling. I don't personally think this should be in the rules like this, because this implies that a card can only ever modify one rating. If a card says your stun rating gets +1, and you have 2 stun ratings, you choose 1 stun rating. If a card says your stun ratings get +1, then both stun ratings get +1.
No, but if you say your stun rating gets +1, the ruling isn't clear on which stun rating gets the +1.
No, the ruling doesn't have to be clear on which stun rating. You choose which one.
Yeah, but then it has to say that you choose it, either in the rules or on the text, but it doesn't.
Okay, fair enough. I can see why clarifying you have to choose, but the way this is worded implies that modifying a card's keyword rating only ever modifies 1, which is not the case. It is purely a function of card grammar. And in fact, there is one card, I think it's Cinder Convection, specifically says you can increase all of its keyword ratings, including ones that have been given to it by other cards.
But he specifically said if an effect modifies a card's keyword rating, like a single one.
Yeah, but it needs to be clear that it's specifically referring to if the card specifically refers to it with singular grammar.
Fair enough, yeah.
As otherwise, this is misleading. Negative numbers. Yeah, MHA CCG allows numbers to be negative. Attacks do not deal negative damage. If an attack would deal negative damage, it does not deal damage.
It sounds familiar. It's like we
Yeah,
read it with
that was
and the
exactly what was in
damage
the other
one as well.
case. And then we do have a continuation of that up here, which is really awkward to follow, but the only thing that can't be negative is X, CX. If X is defined in a way that would make it negative, it's 0 instead. If you go to name a number for X, you can't name a negative number.
I think that makes sense.
Yep, it's just the layout of this document that doesn't. Playing a card.
Yeah.
To play a card, first you announce that you're going to play it. If you're going to play an ability on an action card, you are playing the ability and the card in one sequence. You can't declare an ability on the action card that you can't pay cost for. Then reveal the card. It waits in the transit zone while you go through the process of playing it. See transit zone. We have transit zone mentioned. Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, my.
If playing a card from your card pool, it stays in the card pool instead. Now, determine the difficulty you'll be checking against.
So it doesn't go for the transit zone in that case.
Yeah. What they don't say there is that it goes to the rightmost portion of the card pool, even if it wasn't there before. So if, say, you play an Echo attack and then add a card to your card pool with something like Quick Creation, then the Echo attack will still count the thing as a card before it. If it's got combo on it, say, the thing you put in your card pool will count towards the combo as the previous card, not the card that was previously preceding the Echo attack.
Right, yeah. That's a bit of an omission.
Yeah, I feel like that should be in here, but hey. You determine the difficulty you'll be checking against. For a card you're playing as its card type, this equals its difficulty value plus progressive difficulty. Specifically mentioning progressive difficulty here, because we've now got the progressive difficulty section. For a card you're playing as a block, this equals your card's block modifier plus the attack's speed plus progressive difficulty. If playing a card from the card pool, the card you're playing does not count towards progressive difficulty. Yes, but it still looks at the progressive difficulty of everything else. Cool. So this has all just been changed to basically shorten it to account for the fact that progressive difficulty is now a defined term.
Alright, that's cool.
Printed. A card's printed properties are the ones physically printed on it. Yep. Okay, if an effect checks printed property of a face down card, printed value is 0 if it's a number. Printed property is mid if it's an attack or block zone. Printed property is null otherwise. Again, sort of.
Now they do make a distinction between null and 0.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strange, but hey. Search. To search a zone means to look through all the cards in that zone. This includes private or unknown zones. If you are searching a zone for a card in order to put it in a destination zone, move the card you found to the transit zone. If searching for a card that meets some requirements, reveal it. Note, the card might be revealed in transit due to its origin or destination zone, regardless. See transit zone. Okay, so interesting thing to note here is that it's specifically required that you reveal a card if the card has requirements.
Yeah, otherwise you could cheat.
Yeah, I know, but in basically any other card game, including I think older versions of this one, it would actively state that you had to reveal it. Now cards just can choose not to, and then the rules will tell you to reveal it.
Oh, right, yeah.
If you search a zone and fail to find a card that meets the instructions requirements, you do not need to prove the absence. Good. We're not Yu-Gi-Oh here, because Yu-Gi-Oh has this weird rule where if you search a zone and can't find a thing, then you just lose the game.
Lose the game?
Yeah, you lose the game for cheating for not fulfilling the effect.
What? That's BS.
If the effect requires you to find a thing, you can't just opt out and not find it. You lose for not doing so. Stupidest thing. If you search your deck for any reason, shuffle it afterwards. Interesting that only your deck gets shuffled, but I guess it is the only randomized zone.
So what's the point of the transit zone?
The transit zone is a zone where things go between zones. Like, say, you play the one attack, I think it's Warp Gate Portal, lets you play an attack from your deck.
Yeah.
So it's not entered your card pool until the attack becomes active, correct?
Yeah.
But when you're playing it, it's already left your deck because your deck has to be shuffled for you to make the check.
Oh, right.
So the transit zone exists as the go-between.
So it allows you for time to shuffle and stuff like that?
Yeah, and a lot of things will happen from the transit zone. If a card goes from your hand to play, it will go through the transit zone while it's being played, so that it's face up and visible to both players before it actually enters play.
Oh, right.
And that can be relevant to some effects as well. I mean, imagine if you played the last card in your hand as an attack, and your opponent had a response discard a card. Because the card hasn't entered the card pool yet, if there wasn't the transit zone, it would still be in your hand, and you'd be forced to discard the attack that you were playing.
That'd be silly, yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's why the transit zone exists.
Cool, yeah.
So that things can be safe going in between and not interfere with everything else.
It's the safe space of the My Hero card game.
Kinda. Your attack or your rival's attack in any scenario refer to the attack in a state of progress, provided it's either yours or your rival's respectively. That is a really weird and confusing wording that we talked about up above. I know what this attack is, but this rule does not help clarify what this attack is.
Yeah.
And that's apparently it for these. So there we go.
Yeah.
That's all the new rules. But we do have one final thing to look at.
Ooh.
Oh, let me just adjust the scaling on this so that it fits.
Go for it. There you go.
I wish Jasco's documents were all nicely and conveniently the same size so we didn't have to do this, but, you know, they don't care about streamers. Right, Undaunted Raid printing error statement. We have become aware of a booster display issue affecting a small fraction of booster boxes manufactured late in the production of My Hero Academia Undaunted Raid. This problem affects less than 10% of booster packs. It appears that some product in the later batches of Undaunted Raid have a collation error causing the following common rarity cards to be missing. Hardened Fist, Learning to Harden, Fat Grapple, Big Appetite, Practical Studies, Flurry of Punches, Seasoned Brawler, Single Spiral, Precision Seal Strike, Foresight, Self-Doubt, Crystal Sword Cutter, Human Garbage, which is one of the best foundations in the new sets, if you ask me. Hair Razor Slash, Lockdown Knockdown, which is crucial to Rock Lock, Confession, Energy Suction, which is just insane. That is a fantastic foundation, and Heroic Assistance. All other rarities of cards are unaffected. This only affects commons.
That's disastrous. Imagine paying like 80 quid for a box and you don't get half the commons.
Yeah. So there is a solution to that. In summary, the affected product here, there are 19 commons that will not appear with an increased rate of the other 19 commons. So yeah, half the commons won't appear in your box, the other half will appear more. If you get one of these 10% of boxes.
Yeah.
And note that since I was already getting 4-ofs in boxes, that will appear more is probably not actually beneficial. However, those encountering this issue can reach out to our support team at community@universusgames.com with the following information. A picture of the open product with common rarity cards fanned out and your email address in the photo. Wait, and your email address in the photo?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real hassle.
Wait, so you can't reuse someone else's picture, I guess?
Yeah, but it means you've got to actively take a picture of your email address, which is a real pain in the neck. Your mailing address, proof of purchase, which is an email receipt, they say. Who gets an email receipt for their booster boxes?
If you got it in the store, you're screwed, or what?
I mean, if you specifically needed an email receipt, yeah. If they will accept a printout receipt, great. But I guess you'd have to scan the receipt or take a very good picture of it.
And then mail it to yourself.
Yeah, so that you can have it as an email. That's wild. We're currently working with our printer to provide 4 copies of each missing common to players affected by this issue. Once confirmed, we'll mail you a playset of the missing commons. Please note these cards still need to be printed and shipped from our manufacturer. We will provide an ETA once those cards are ready, but it will take several weeks at a minimum. We are limiting this to 1 playset per player. So this means for several weeks from point of purchase, you will still not have those commons. And also, we're limiting this to 1 playset per player. Bearing in mind that you would get 1 playset per box normally, at least close to, you probably get like 3 of them. If you open 2 of these boxes, you are still out of pocket in terms of those commons.
Yeah.
So if you're running 2 decks of those commons, you're screwed. So this still isn't a perfect solution.
Also, that's if you bought a whole booster box. What if you bought like single boosters in a shop or something?
Oh, then you're screwed. You get nothing.
Yeah.
Good day, sir.
Also, from what I've heard, it will take something like months for them to ship it out or something.
So I've heard a suggestion that it'll be 7 weeks in the UK. I haven't seen any confirmation of that. And it could well just be that when they say several, somebody's misread that as 7.
I guess so, yeah.
However, several is more than a few. A few usually means 3-ish. So we can say that it will almost certainly be at least a month.
So it could be until the next set comes out, which is really frustrating.
Yeah. And note also, that's once the cards are ready, not once they will arrive with you. So you've also got the shipping time to deal with on top of that.
Yeah, and from America, that's not trivial. That can't take 2 months.
I've had cards from Jasco arrive in like 3 to 4 days. I don't understand how, because shipping from America doesn't happen in 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have had other ones take a month and a half.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, it's very random and arbitrary when you will get these cards, especially if you're in the UK or probably if you're in Australia for that matter. New Zealand.
True. Must be even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
What I also find weird is that it's stuff they printed late, so it was fine for most of the printings, and at the end this error crept in somehow.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened. It is a bit bizarre, but it's interesting to note then that all the booster boxes I've had, well, all the booster boxes me and my friends have been perfectly fine, implying
Yeah.
that the UK did not get the last batch, or at least my locals didn't.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, because that implies that we were not an afterthought for once.
Oh, that would be a nice change.
Yeah, so there's some interesting stuff with that, but it's not good. Their solution to it's alright, but the fact that it's once per player is kind of for commons. If it was things higher than a common, I'd understand a bit more. But the fact that it's cards that you would get a playset of per box, almost, and you can now only get one playset of them, seems very suspicious.
I feel like this just discourages people from buying more than one booster box.
Yeah.
Or at least at the same time.
Yeah, it might.
And it would definitely discourage me to just buy a booster box at all, kind of, I guess.
Well, as said, the ones at our locals seem to be all good.
Yeah.
So you'll find there, but yeah, it's a thing to be concerned about if you're getting them online. But then
Absolutely.
I'm going to have more than playsets of some of the commons and uncommons, so if the worst comes to the worst, I am happy to just hand you the cards you need.
I know, I mean, I did get a booster box and it was fine, so.
Cool. So yeah, there we have it. That's all of today's UniVersus news. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll catch you again next time.
Thank you, yeah, see ya.
Yeah, I got some more decks to show you.
Nice. Bye.